Chapter 6. The Fluffy Princess. The temperature dropped so low that the rain turned to snow, but I held my promise of going over to Greg's house. He was happy to see me, although not as much as the previous night. I was a blubbering mess, and he offered to come sit with me in my apartment until it was time for him to go to work, and I made a video with the intent of finding Yoshi a new home. I looked like I had an allergic reaction. My eyes were puffy and red. "So, my luck ran out, guys," I said. "I have to give up Yoshi. He's litter box savvy and likes Meow Mix dry food." Tears rolled down my cheeks and I sobbed softly as I forced words out. "And he also likes being scratched under his chin, sleeping under the covers and watching forensic files with me, probably because he's planning the perfect untraceable murder. Anyway, he's free, so if you want him and promise to be a good cat parent, please comment. Local offers only. I live in Clovis, New Mexico. I have until this Sunday to relocate him, and then I lose my place if he's still here. Arigato. Ran out." After I uploaded the video, I sat on my couch next to Greg, and he rubbed my back while I held Yoshi. No video games, no jokes, just spending all the time I could with my cat before he went away. Greg then asked me a fair question. "What if you and I became roommates at another place, and Yoshi could stay with you?" "Got a place in mind?" I asked him. He shrugged. "I mean, maybe we could go apartment hunting and just stay friends, split the rent 50-50. Did you talk to Raj today?" "I'm breaking it off with him," I said. "He's too wholesome and I'm too toxic." "I think you two can make it work," he assured me. "Maybe this thing with Yoshi was the universe's way of bringing you two together." I sat up with Yoshi in my hands. "Maybe," I said with a sigh. "I just really need to take my mind off this right now." "Want to smoke?" he asked me. "Weed?" I asked in surprise. "I never have before." He smirked. "I brought you something special." From his pocket, he pulled out a little baggie which contained a cigar, which was apparently referred to as a blunt. He did the honor of letting me take the first hit, and after pulling a moderate amount of smoke into my mouth, I waited a few seconds and then inhaled deeply and held my breath as long as I could. He nodded in approval, but the fact is I learned this from watching the movie Half-Baked. A few seconds later, the bitter flavor got to me and I coughed like crazy as my throat began to dry out. I hacked for about 2 full minutes straight while Greg took a hit. "Don't you work tonight?" I asked him. He shook his head. "I took the night off to keep you company." I nodded. Yoshi jumped out of my arms and went to go eat and drink. My body got tingly all over and I felt a little lightheaded as my system was filled with THC. "Want another hit?" he asked. I shrugged and took it from him. "Why not?" Another hit, and I now felt the full effect of the weed in my system. "Greg, why are you so good to me?" "Because you're not a bad person." "I'm misanthropy," I said. "And you're getting farther and farther away from defining that name," he said. My vision was doing a weird thing where it felt like the room was gently swaying. I laid on my back on the cold floor and stared up at the dome-shaped light on my ceiling that, in my drugged mind, resembled an eyeball staring back at me. "What are you looking at?" I demanded in a very New York accent with a heavy slur. Craig laughed at me and reclined on the couch. "I'm feeling much better," I said with a groan. "I feel really excitable now." "Excitable how?" he asked. I crawled over to Greg and knelt between his legs. He was unsure of what I was going to do and became a bit defensive. Staring him in the eyes for a good 10 seconds, I commented, "Are you a virgin?" "Ren, cut it out," he laughed. "I'm serious, are you?" "What's wrong with you?" he demanded, getting a bit more stern in his tone. I tugged on his belt buckle and he struggled to stop me. "Stop!" "I'm consenting," I snapped. "Besides, I'm technically single now. Knock it off, I'm serious. This isn't like you, sober or not," he said and stood up, buckling his belt back up. "It's not right. And besides that, even if I was willing, I don't want to be your first." I laughed. "You afraid I'll be one of those clingy girls that stalks you?" "I'm worried I'll get accused of something," Greg said. "My ex..." He hesitated for a while. "What happened?" I demanded, sitting where he had been as he stood facing away. "Were you accused of something you didn't do?" He turned to me. I just want to chill out with you. How hard is it for you to understand? I don't want to have a sexual relationship with you. I don't want to be your boyfriend. I just want you as a friend. To smoke with, joke with, you know? Why does everything always have to boil down to romance or screwing? I don't want any of that, period, with anyone. I lowered my head. I apologize. He sat next to me. You're opening up to a lot of new feelings. You haven't experienced love or friendship or admiration before. But don't get friendship mixed up with feelings, Ren. You're better than that. You're right, I acknowledged. So what happened to you? Drop it, he ordered. I shrugged. Normally, I would have been triggered to panic by his hostility, but somehow the way it made me act. Normal-ish? It's weird how it turns you into a different person. Maybe it suppressed my anxiety and made me more outgoing. So why on earth was I acting this way, and what in the world would I have done once his pants came off? I was a dog chasing cars. What the hell was I going to do if I actually caught one? Idiot! At that instant, my phone blooped at me, indicating someone commented on the post. Then another and another. The first two comments were people handing me sympathy for the debacle I found myself in. The third one, however, was the user, the Fluffy Princess, who commented, Me! I live in Clovis and I'll pick up the little kitty and love him. At this, I replied with my address. Cool. I'm here, Royalty Apartments, Apartment B. My name is Ren. To which she replied with a wink, kissy lips, and a thumbs up emoji. No idea what she was trying to tell me. I sat patiently by the window wearing a purple hoodie with no logos on it. I kept an eye out for her black Honda Accord and bore in mind the roads might be icy. I held Yoshi tightly and nuzzled the back of his head while humming. Greg proceeded to recline on the couch. It was about 7 p.m. and dark outside, and the light falling of snow was a nice reminder that though things were bad, I was at least blessed to have what I had. The weather was a pleasant distraction from the fact my cat would no longer be mine within the hour. Headlights cut through the darkness and pulled into the apartment parking lot, casting bright cones onto evenly covered white asphalt. I opened the door and carried Yoshi up, bundled in my arms like a little swaddling baby, and he was totally submissive, almost as though he were cool with it. Fact is, I held him like this all the time. Let's face it, he was my baby. I loved him so much, I was physically hurting to do what I was doing. It literally caused pain in my heart. She parked in front of my apartment and got out quite quickly, practically skipping over to me. She was a Hispanic woman with lots of makeup, cat-eye mascara, concealer, and ruby red lip gloss, all done with a level of professionalism and expertise that made me believe she did it for a living. Speaking of cat eyes, she wore transparent red glasses with that shape, and they looked very good on her. Her eyelashes were long and gorgeous, and her hair was tied back in a bun. She was big in the stomach and, to be honest, all her limbs. I would call her portly, but she herself used the term thick with 2 C's, which I guess was the more accurate description, even though I looked at it as a mean word. Despite her plus size, she was very agile and honestly kind of curvy in the hips, but had no butt. She made up for it with a bust that seemed like my head could literally fit in each bra cup. Why am I even looking at her boobies? Was I so high that I literally checked out her chesticles? Yes. Hola, homegirl, she exclaimed as she approached me, giving me a huge hug. Her body was very warm and squishy. Aw, he's a cutie. Well, he's yours now, I said. I liked her personality. She was like me, but more outgoing and had a super contagious personality. Thank you, Ren, she said, taking him from me gently. I love your channel. I watch all your videos. I saw some of yours, I said. You used to do backyard wrestling. Jezebel, she exclaimed, flexing one arm in her black hoodie while the other arm had the hand tucked in the sleeve and held Yoshi close to her huge bust. I wrestled men and women for like 2 years, and then no one else wanted to do it. They didn't want to get hurt? I asked. Girl, I'm half muscle and half jello. I could take a full-speed tackle. Them skinny hoochies got hurt when the wind blew, she commented. I tried not to laugh, but she guffawed as if George Carlin himself recited the 7 dirty words routine. I slowly joined into the laughter and hugged her. Y'all smoke? Never, I said in a slow drawl. It's bad for you. Remembering Raj had said the same thing about coffee, I gritted my teeth and snickered like an idiot. She stubbornly clicked her tongue. I meant weed, fool, she snapped in a low voice. She had the inflection in her tone that reminded me of a chola, which was another thing I liked about her. Her voice was perfect to me. I smirked stupidly and nodded before pointing inside. Does he sell it? She asked. Go inside and ask him, I said. When we walked inside, Greg was nearly passed out, but made himself stand up and attempt to shake her left hand with his right. Bro, she laughed. You one baked couch potato. Glad to meet you too, he said. Greg. Lupita, she said. You can call me anything you want, Papi Cholo. After calling him this, she winked sexily. I think I could pronounce her name, he slurred. Wanna smoke? I gotta drive, she reminded us. But if you guys want to come over to my place to spend the night and we can all get stupid off the sticky together, yeah? I looked at Greg excitedly and he shrugged. I'm down, he said. The three of us went back to her car, after Greg and I got our house keys and locked up proper, that is, and rode with her to her house, which was not too far away, about 8 blocks. The snow wasn't sticking to the ground at all, and so it was safe to drive the speed limit. I held Yoshi while Lupita drove and we talked about ourselves. I had to explain to her I was in the middle of a complicated relationship with a cute Indian guy, and Greg was just my good friend. Once we pulled up to her little teal stucco house, she tried to convince us to share a room. You mean to tell me you guys ain't friends with benefits? Lupita asked. Greg and I laughed. No way, I said. Not a chance. Lupita slapped my butt hard and looked back at Greg. In that case, I got first dibs, she said. Smack felt good, but also hurt at the same time. I actually leaned back and leapt with a small shriek simultaneously. She cracked my behind. Dude! I exclaimed in shock. I just met you and you're trying to get in my pants. You're cute, I can't help it, she said, but then said, Psych, I'm into dudes for the most part. I looked back and shook my head at Greg as if to say, This girl is crazy. All he did was shrug in confusion. We entered her little abode, and it could have been because I was high, but I was very impressed by her custom design. The living room was bathed in blue light that was cast down on the walls through black lights and illuminated the various surfaces of green, white, and purple that outlined the room's upholstery. The carpet was red and had a black shag rug thrown on it. I was tempted to take my shoes and socks off and just creep across it barefoot to see what it felt like. Ooh. The walls were decorated with stars and moons that looked like they came from an astrology book, and there were pentagrams and crucifixes everywhere. You a Christian? I asked in curiosity. Christian which? She said casually. I believe in God, but I also believe in the power of nature and herbs and stuff to heal or cure disease. My mom was into brujeria, witchcraft, but not what you'd imagine. She didn't sacrifice goats or eat kids. She made medicine and prayed for people. Dad was from the res, and he was into burning herbs and all sorts of other tribal stuff. It was awesome. What tribe are you from? She showed a tattoo on the right side of her neck of an eagle and proclaimed, Apache Nation, baby! That's so cool, I gasped. So can I put the cat down? He doesn't spray, does he? Lupita asked. Nope, got him fixed when he was of age. Also, all his shots are up to... Are you Chinese? She suddenly blurted out. Sorry, no offense. I just noticed in this light your eyes are really pretty. I blushed, but basically let out a snort when I chuckled and said, I'm mixed, actually. Mom's white and Dad's Japanese-American. That's freaking tight, she exclaimed. Nice. All right then, lady and gent. To the tokatorium! Greg walked up and offered her the blunt, which she politely declined by pointing to the ceiling and making a thumbs-up sign, and pretended to smoke something. This probably meant that she had something extremely high quality to show off, or we were about to be murdered. We departed down the hallway, and she led both of us to another room. On the way to her special room, I passed one that had the door open and saw an expensive-looking computer with a ring light on one end of the room, a wall painted completely matte green, and the final wall had lots of cables, and there was a camera and some microphones against it, neatly arranged. What the crap is that? I asked. She turned to me. Oh, that's my studio, she said. I do porn. Mostly feet fetish stuff, bondage, and a dozen other features full of weird butt stuff. Occasionally, I invite a dozen random men over from Craigslist, and they dogpile me while I film it in one take or stream it live for hours at a time. I counted exactly 15 full seconds of awkward silence as she stared at us with a straight face. Finally, she burst out into hysterical laughter and playfully tapped my arm. Just playing, homegirl. I do craft channels with dollar store hauls. All the art and decorations in this house were done by me in that room. I want to do more videos one day, but for now I just got to do vlogs and tarot deck unboxings. Tarot is dope, I exclaimed. You got to give me a reading. She gave me a thumbs up and opened the door to the room she referred to as the tokatorium, as in her auditorium for getting blitzed. The room was quite warm and cozy, and incense burned non-stop in here, so it smelled very pleasant. Lupita took off her hoodie and flipped the light switch. There was a fixture overhead with a black light installed, and the walls were decorated with white and orange speckles that played with the eyes and reminded me of bright stars at twilight. The same rug in the living room was in here, indicating that possibly she got high in both rooms. There were also 5 jumbo beanbags arranged in a circle. She moved 2 against the farthest wall and also grabbed a 12-inch glass bong from the shelf with all sorts of glass devices, all of which were made for smoking, but I mistook a lot of them for sex toys and got nervous. She had been hitting on me since the moment I met her, and honestly, I don't think I have mutual feelings if she was leaning that way. Good for her, but I wasn't interested in girls. She brought the bong to a table at the center of the room. "Shoes and socks off," she ordered. We were hesitant to, but took them off, and as soon as our feet hit the carpet, we were greeted with luxurious softness and warmth that felt heavenly. I now needed to buy this carpet, and I would perpetually be barefoot if I could. She took a small wooden box from under the table and opened it up before packing the glass pipe and filling it with water. "I'll go first," Lupita said, and was the first one to take a hit. By watching her, I learned immediately how to do it, and then she turned to me. "What are your birthdays?" "June 4th, Greg replied. "May 18th, I said. Lupita handed me the pipe, and I proceeded to be the next one to partake. The stuff was strong, but it was gentle on my lungs and surprisingly cool with a pine aftertaste that was not too overbearing. "Oh, wow," I gasped and handed it and the lighter to Greg, who took a gigantic hit. "I definitely like that." Greg exhaled with a slight cough and asked, "Where did you get this?" "Special blend from Colorado. My dad grew it himself. He has a dispensary called Happy Trees in somewhere." "Guess now we know what kind of herbs he burns," I joked. Indeed, I was right on the money. He grew unique strains of weed, as it were, and had a medical license to grow his own. She laughed. "Actually, he's a rapper. He tours with other indie hip-hop artists. They're called Blunt Force and carry hatchets and wear tribal war paint when they rap." "Blunt Force is probably the coolest name ever for a rap group," I said with a grin. I felt a chill go through my body and my toes tingled in the carpet's strands. I saw Lupita moving her feet in circular motions of the carpet and did the same. I felt like getting a most exquisite massage, and I didn't want it to end. I melted into the beanbag and everything tingled softly. "So, Ren," Lupita said, "how do you feel?" I thought I replied to her, but I was just sitting there staring at her. "Sorry, I feel super relaxed." "You're so cool." "I used to have bad anxiety like you," she told me. "Between this stuff and my channel, I was able to strike a perfect balance between keeping to myself and being sociable." "How?" I asked. She chuckled. "When I'm making videos or go outside into the world, I interact with people. But when I come in here, only I exist with whoever I bring in." "How do you do it?" I asked. "Set up a room like this and just turn it into the best sensation ever?" People are too distracted nowadays. Relationships, responsibilities, a job, technology. People are so worried nowadays about likes and views that they're bad at interacting and, because they're behind a computer screen, get confrontational and rude. And that carries over into real life. You no doubt seen me get into comment wars on your videos when people talk smack about you. I got your back, homegirl. "Yeah, like Kremlin87 and The Mercenary Kid," I recalled. And some douchebag with a screen name F1 lowercase x capital X lowercase x 3R, pronounced Fixer apparently. I realized none of them had any videos on their channels. They were also formed around the same time. New channels formed this year. Greg snickered. Probably the same jerk making a bunch of throwaway profiles to throw shade and stir up drama on other channels. "Right?" Lupita said. "My point is to set aside time to forget all the drama. You need to relax yourself and dedicate some time to self-care. Ren, baby girl, listen to me. Self-care is self-love. Do what you gotta do on your channel or in your real life out in the world. But when you get home, reward yourself with love, chica. Shut off everything and just chill." What an amazingly clean concept. To treat yourself like a queen. Coming out like that, it sounds selfish, but why worry about someone else's opinion? Why go and sulk and hate yourself over a negative comment or low view counts? I like me, even if nobody else does. I was social distancing before the CDC made it cool, and I wouldn't change for anyone. My thoughts quickly turned to Raj and how I had put on a false face for him while showing my real self to Greg. Shame on me. I didn't deserve Raj. and I needed to apologize immediately. I suddenly felt as though he meant everything to me once more, and I knew that I had to make amends not only with him, but to apologize to myself. In this moment, the thought occurred to me that I met my best friend. A woman who did not know anything about me other than what I presented through an internet connection approached me with respect rather than hostility, with open arms and an open mind. Although I had every intention of staying myself even around strangers, I hadn't thought of the concept of self-love. I just sort of existed. I treated bad situations with hostility and good situations with apathy. I made a silent vow at that moment to treat myself more, and my first mission was to make my house a little bit more of a comfort zone rather than a place I eat, sleep, and poop.